Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is applied hydraulic engineering. So first class, I think we have seen the basic concepts of whatever you have studied earlier in the hydraulics. We started with the concepts of hydraulics, which we are going to apply in this applied hydraulic engineering. Okay, so how we are going to apply these hydraulic principle in this applied hydraulic engineering is what we are going to discuss in this subject. And here you see this attendance. Take the attendance first. Download attendance. Okay. So the first unit comprises of your open channel flow and the basic energy momentum principles and the critical flow computations and the types and regimes of flow and velocity distribution, which is covered in the first unit. And then there are different types of channels, open channels, based on various categories, based on the regimes, based on the shapes and everything. And then now, the next topic is your measurements, how velocity is measured by means of, there are some velocity measuring instruments which are used for measuring the open channel flows, and computation of your computation of your velocity by using Manning's and Judge's formula, which already you might have studied in your third semester. Same thing, some with some the Manning's flow is especially Manning's formula is especially useful for open channel flow. And then then after that we'll be studying two different types of flow: gradually varied flow, spatially varied flow. There are two things. So gradually varied flow and rapidly varied flow. Gradually varied flow is the variation of depth over the length as well as over the time period. That is called your non-uniform flow. So non-uniform flow, what is a uniform flow? If the variation of the parameters, the velocity, acceleration and density, all those things, if the flow parameters or the fluid parameters, if they are constant with respect to space, then it is a uniform flow. For non-uniform flow, those velocity and acceleration with respect to space is not constant, then it is a non-uniform flow. So non-uniform flow, you have gradually varied flow and rapidly varied flow. In gradually varied flow, we have computation of profile, gradually varied flow profile, and in that we are talking about drawdown and backwater curve. So drawdown curve and backwater curve. Drawdown curve is the curve in which the water surface profile on the downstream of any hydraulic structure. Backwater curve, if you see, you will be having the gradual rise in the water depth on the upstream side of any structure. Especially you could have seen in case of reservoirs and other things, if the depth is varying, then gradual variation of depth, increase of the depth in the river channel again on the upstream side of the hydraulic structure. That is where backwater curves. So how to draw the profile of these drawdown and the backwater curves? So all these things are essential for the determination of the for the design of your hydraulic structures. And there are two different methods for the profile determination. Again, you have direct step method and indirect step method. So standard step method, both are used for drawing the profile of this drawdown and backwater. And then rapid is variation of depth, but short period of time, with a short period of time as well as short period of distance, short interval of distances. So this is called your rapidly varied flow. So rapidly varied flow, you can say hydraulic jump. When there is a dam or anything, if you are opening the shutter, suppose I am opening the shutter on the hydraulic structure, you can see a sudden jump. You can see a sudden jump in the flow, or the depth is suddenly changing from minimum to maximum. Madam, classல தான் இருக்கேன், முடிச்சிருவேன், இப்போ முடிச்சு சொல்றேன். So in the hydraulic jump, I will explain all those things when you are talking these topics. So hydraulic jump is the energy will be changing. Actually, the depth, when there is a sudden release of gates on the hydraulic structures like dams or any kind of regulators, then immediately you can see on the downstream side the water falls on the ground and it jumps. So there will be a huge formation of foam and other bubbles on the side. So that is nothing but your hydraulic jump. Then why that is essential? We need to study the hydraulic jump because huge energy is released, and because of that there is a proper design on the downstream side floor. So horizontal floor and the channel transition has to be properly designed. So that is about your rapidly vary flow. Then coming to boundary layer concepts, there are boundary layer thickness, different types of thicknesses, and how we are going to use these momentum equation in the boundary layer concepts. That is, we are going to discuss. Boundary layer is nothing but when when the fluid is flowing along the boundary can be a mobile boundary or it can be a stationary boundary. But when it is to the stationary wall or the stationary pipe or stationary boundary, then the velocity reduces to zero at the near the wall. But the velocity will be increasing up to certain thickness, beyond which the liquid or the fluid which attains the velocity of the flow. So that thickness is called your boundary layer thickness, and that thickness will be classified into different types: displacement, momentum, and energy. So how these thickness are useful means it is mainly, especially in the computation of local and the mean drag coefficients. Especially this boundary layer concept is useful in aerodynamics. It will be more useful. Okay. So then these are the basic or the content of your applied hydraulics engineering. Now we will pass on to the first topic, first unit. Wait a minute. I will change it to whiteboard. Whether your board is visible, whiteboard is visible. That whiteboard is visible to you or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Visible, ma'am.
Visible, okay. Are you able to see what I am writing? Okay.
Ma'am, anyone can write here, ma'am.
See, if people are playing, I will not take classes. If people are playing, now the screen is visible to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In this one, first we are going to see the first topic, open channel flow. Okay. What is meant by open channel flow? I think last class itself we have discussed what is a open channel flow and pipe flow. So already you know what is meant by open channel flow. Just a minute. So what are the screen is visible, right? So what is meant by a open channel? So usually open channels are man-made or natural, and what is the purpose of my open channel? It is used to convey water, and there is a structure which is able of conveying the water but which is open to atmosphere. And for example you can say flow in rivers, streams, etc. We can say these are all open channel flows. And the flow can be either flowing full or it can be partial also. Either it can be flowing full or it can be partially full. So you can see a typical trapezoidal section of a flow in which this is a bed slope and here is the depth of the flow. This is called a depth, and this is your bed slope. Let us take I is your bed slope, and this is your side slope, and you have a free surface. This is your free surface over which the water surface. And normally you have you heard the terminology flume? Yeah, are you able to hear
Ma'am, are
me?
you drawing something on?
Ma'am, your screen is
Are
not
you drawing
visible.
something on the whiteboard?
Yeah, I am writing.
Nothing is visible.
Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, now visible.
So these are this is what I discussed, right? So these are the open channels which are natural or man-made, which is able to convey the water and which has a free surface, and hence it is open to atmosphere. And the channels can be either flowing full or it can be partially full also. So example, I could say river, streams and flow in any sanitary or storm sewers also considered as an open channel flow. And here there is an example is a trapezoidal channel. In this trapezoidal channel you can see I was talking about flume. So flume is usually a channel which is made of either flume is a channel which is made of wood or your metal, concrete or masonry. It can be made of anything, and is usually supported on the or above. It can be supported on the surface or above the surface, and which is especially for carrying the water. Okay, so that is nothing but your flume, and this is called flume. And what is a jute? So jute is a channel which is having a steep slope, and there is a steep slope, then that is called your jute. So what here you can say this can be a flume. I think this can be a flume. There is a channel which carries water and maybe it is horizontal. Sometimes it is horizontal, sometimes there can be a slight inclination possible. There is a slight inclination is possible with the flume. Suppose if this is the surface. Okay, or else it can be on the surface itself. The flume can be on the surface itself with channel. It is a kind of a channel. Maybe it can be a rectangular channel. This is a plan, so it can be a rectangular channel or it can be a trapezoidal channel. This is called your flume. Okay. And in case of jute, you'll be having a steep slope. And drop, what is a drop? Drop is similar to jute with steep slope, but the change in elevation is affected in the short distance. Maybe this slope, this steep slope, just for a longer distance. Suppose if this is for a shorter distance, suppose. This steep slope is for shorter, and this is a steep slope. This could be a jute and it could be a drop. There is the major difference between the jute and the drop. Jute is channel which is having a steep slope, but a drop is similar to jute, but it will be having the change in elevation is affected in the same distance. You can see the elevation. So this difference is almost same. Change in the elevation is almost same, but it is in the shorter distance. The distance is over a short, then it is a drop. Then what is a culvert? These are terminology just related to your hydraulics. Then there is a terminology called a culvert. Have you heard of culvert? I think you might have seen the culvert everywhere, isn't it? What is a culvert? Culvert is when partially full is covering the channel or either drainage or stormwater drain. Rainwater, either it could be the stormwater drains or it could be a sanitary sewer or whatever it is. It is covering which is provided over the channel. Suppose there is a highway embankment. In the highway embankment, you can see these kinds of culverts. Suppose there is a stormwater drain. There is a stormwater drain. You want to have access. This is your highway. You want to have access. So normally you provide a cover over which the culvert structure, which is provided above this drain. Maybe here you may have a drain channel. Above this, your culvert will be there. You can say, otherwise you can say it's a small bridge, which will be covering mainly for small channels. Okay, especially in case of highways and railway embankments, you can see many culverts on the sides. So that is about some terminology which is related to our hydraulics. Now we'll see what are the different types of channels. Open channels. One is a prismatic and non-prismatic channel. So channel which is in which the cross section, suppose I am taking a horizontal rectangular cross section. The channel in which the cross sectional shape, size and bottom slope all are constant throughout the section. Suppose this is throughout the section. Throughout the section everything is constant. Then you can say this is a prismatic channel. So I can say shape, size and bottom slope all are constant throughout the length for which you are considering. Then it is a prismatic channel. Then what is a non-prismatic channel? Non-prismatic channel. So prismatic channel we are talking. So in prismatic channel, so this is the one we are saying. Now all the prismatic, whenever we are saying all the natural channels which are having varying cross section are non-prismatic, which means that natural channels are non-prismatic. Why I am saying that? Natural channels are not uniform in cross section and not uniform in their length, the slope and shape, and hence all the natural channels are non-prismatic. And most of the man-made channels, so prismatic channels can be man-made. Prismatic channels can be a man-made channel, and this can be for over a long stretches we can make. So prismatic channels can be either rectangle, trapezoidal, triangle, circular. It can be of any shape you can go, man-made prismatic channels. And most of the man-made channels are prismatic channels, which already you can go for the same way. This is what we discussed here. Okay. And hence, we can say rigid and mobile boundary channels. So this is about first type. Then second type is rigid and mobile boundary channels. What is a rigid and mobile boundary? Whenever I am talking about rigid, from the name itself, we can say the channel which are not deformable. They are called rigid channels, which means that the shape, roughness, or they are not the functions of flow parameters. So the lined canals and non-erodible unlined canals are called rigid channels. What do you mean by that? The shape and roughness. Shape I am saying suppose and roughness suppose I am going for concrete. Lined channel. Lined channel means I am using inner, base as well as sides. I am lining with concrete. So this is called a lined canal. So the lined canals and non-erodible. In the sense, if it is lined, definitely erosion is not possible. So when it is non-erodible, then I can say lined is non-erodible. That because there will not be any erosion. But instead, if it is a natural, then it is definitely erodible. Isn't it? If it is natural, then definitely it is erodible. But if it is a non-erodible, then lined canal, it is non-erodible. So rigid channels are not by major points are not deformable, and the shape as well as roughness are not functions of flow parameters. And if you are considering the flow velocity and the shear stress distribution, then the both stress distribution and flow velocity will be in such a way that there will not be any major scoring, erosion or deposition that will take place in the channel, which means that there is no such kind of activities will take place in the rigid channels. Okay, this is with respect to time. Over a period of time, this will not happen. Then, when the boundary of the channel is mobile, then the flow can be carrying considerable amount of sediments and through suspension or in contact with the bed. So these are called mobile channels. In the sense, when the boundary is mobile, in the sense there is a possibility for scoring, there is a possibility for erosion. Then those are things possible for mobile channels. In mobile channel, not only the depth of the flow, but also the bed width and longitudinal slope also changes. Here we are talking about not only the depth, but also we can say, I can say that not only the depth I am changing, similarly bed width and longitudinal slope. What do you mean by bed width? So this is going to be your width of the channel. This is going to be your depth of the channel. Sorry. So this is going to be your width, the depth, and slope is along the slope. So suppose this is the channel slope. This is going to be your theta. Okay. So in the mobile channel, not only the depth, but also the width as well as slope also changes because of action of scoring and erosion. And if you see, the resistance to flow and the quantity of sediments which is transported and the channel down, all these things is depending upon the interaction of this flow with the channel boundary. So suppose if this is your channel, so all the other flow parameters as well as your sediment transport mechanisms, these things, whatever the interaction, that only determines the channel boundary. And generally, if you are talking, mobile boundary channel can be considered as the 4 degree. Is the important point. Generally, we normally consider 4 degrees of freedom for mobile boundary channel, whereas in rigid channels only 1 degree of freedom, because only depth alone you are changing. So 1 degree of freedom. Whereas in case of mobile boundary channel, you are free to change D, you are free to change theta, you are free to change B, and you are free to change the top width. Suppose I am taking T. So all these parameters are varying parameters. That is why it can be generally 4 degrees of freedom for mobile, whereas 1 degree of freedom, because width also is restricted, only depth alone you can change. So this is for a rigid channel. This is the one major difference between the mobile and the rigid boundary channels. Then what are the different regimes of flow? We are talking about different regimes of flow. Screen is visible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, there are two different regimes. One is steady and unsteady flow. So this is with respect to different types of flow which you already seen. So steady flow, already you know that steady flow in which your depth, discharge or velocity which do not change with respect to time, then it is a steady flow. And if the depth or discharge which changes with this time, then it is called unsteady flow. Okay, so the flood flows in rivers and rapidly varying surges in canals, they are all examples of unsteady flow. Or you understand now? Whatever, suppose you have a river, when there is a full flood which is occurring in the river, this is an example of unsteady flow. Okay, so example, flow in the rivers and rapidly varying surges in the canals. Surges, when you can see like what I told you, like say suppose there is a hydraulic jump, that is considered to be a unsteady. And uniform and non-uniform flow. So uniform and non-uniform flow is with respect to space. Am I right? If it is with respect to time, it is steady and steady. If it is with respect to space, then it is uniform, non-uniform. So if it is with respect to space, then it is uniform, non-uniform. If the flow property, say depth of the flow in the open channel, which remain constant over the length. This already you have studied. Suppose if this is the length of the channel, so your depth of the flow D1, and after a length again the depth of the flow is D1. So over a time, over a space, over a distance, the depth of the flow remains constant. Then it is called uniform flow. Suppose instead so in suppose if the depth of the flow, so here so if the depth of the flow D1 is different over a length of the channel, depth of the flow is different over a length of the channel, then it is called non-uniform flow. Okay, and the prismatic channel, what is prismatic channel? What is the definition for prismatic channel? Can anybody say? Just now I have discussed, no? What is the prismatic channel?
The cross-sectional sheet size, bottom slope are constant in channel.
Yes, channel having size, slope, shape, and the bottom slope, everything is constant, then it is a prismatic channel, right? So prismatic channel, which means that all the lined canal, can I say lined canal? All the lined canals are prismatic, I can say. So lined canals are prismatic channels. So these lined canals with constant velocity, the velocity remains constant. Let us say velocity is v. Let us say velocity is v. Okay, in the lined canals, then I can say this is a uniform flow. So lined canals with the uniform, with the constant velocity is an example for uniform flow. And also in case of uniform flow, the gravity force which is acting on the flowing fluid, which is balancing the frictional force. So you can say here, you can see here, which is between the flowing liquid and the inside surface of the channel. Suppose this is the energy line. I think we have studied about total energy line and hydraulic gradient line, right? Total energy line P by rho G plus V square by 2G plus Z. Am I right? This is the total energy. Hydraulic gradient means which term will not come here?
E square by 2G.
That will not come. Otherwise, you will have diatom head and you will have diatom head and the pressure head, and the conductor head will not come for hydraulic gradient line. So, this is going to be your total energy line, TL. So, in case of uniform flow, the condition is we will be having the gravity force which is acting on flowing liquid, which will be balancing the frictional force between the flowing liquid and the inside surface. Inside surface is this one. Surface of the channel which is in contact with the fluid. Whereas in case of non-uniform flow, this is not balanced. That balancing between the frictional force and the flowing fluid is not balanced in case of non-uniform flow. Whereas in case of uniform flow, that frictional forces and your gravity force which is acting on the flowing fluid will be balanced. That is the another major difference between the uniform and the non-uniform flow. Okay. And then we will see the other types of regimes. As I told you, so one thing is uniform and non-uniform. Under non-uniform, again I can classify this into gradually varied flow, rapidly varied flow. Uniform flow, under non-uniform flow, it is gradually varied flow and rapidly varied flow. So non-uniform flow can be classified into gradually varied flow and rapidly varied flow. So what do you mean by that? And assuming that varied flow assumes that no flow is externally added. This point is very much important. Added or taken out of the system. What do you mean by that? I am having a channel here. Whatever flow happens at this section 1, same flow is happening, but you are having the variation in the cross section. Because of that, there can be a non-uniform flow in between section 1 and 2. Suppose if the cross section is different between section 1 and 2, there can be possibility of non-uniform flow. But varied flow is assumed that there is no external input into the system or taken out of the system. Assuming that when this is not happening, then you can say varied flow is only the volume of water whichever is available, which means that volume remains same. Volume remains same, volume of water in a known time interval is same, conserved in the same channel system. Okay, and there is no inflow and outflow into the or out of the system. But the depth is varying. Depth in the varied flow is if the depth is varying gradually. If D1 is varying to D2 gradually over section 1 and 2. So suppose here is your D1, here is your D2. Then I can say this is gradual. Over a depth, it is gradual. Okay. Instead, suppose if there is a sudden in okay, we'll finish gradually varied flow, then we'll come there. So if the change in depth of the varied flow is gradual, so that the curvature of the streamlines is not excessive, and now this type of flow is called a gradually varied flow. Okay. So Y1 and Y2, I have put a D1, D2. You can see here. Y1 and Y2 are the two depths, and you can see the gradual variation in the depth of the flow. Okay. So here in case of gradually varied flow, loss of energy is mainly because of the bottom friction, or you can say boundary friction. And therefore you can say the distribution of pressure in the vertical direction may be because of hydrostatic. And if the varied if the curvature in a varied flow is large, so this curvature is large, and the depth changes appreciably over a short length. Suppose I am taking this short length, but variation is like this. Then I can say this is a rapidly varied flow. So if the curvature in a varied flow is large, but over a short length, then it is a rapidly varied flow. This phenomenon is called rapidly varied flow, and this phenomenon is called gradually varied flow. And there is one more thing, but there is one more flow which is called spatially varied flow. There is one more thing which is called spatially varied flow. If there is, as I told you already, varied flow is different, because varied flow is assuming that there is no addition or taken away. There is no flow is added or taken away. That is where varied flow we have seen. But in spatially varied flow, the some flow is either added to the channel or taken away from the channel. Then whatever the flow which happens, then there is a change in the volume. Volume also changes. There is a change in the volume, and because of that, we will be having a varied flow. So spatially varied flow is always unsteady and also non-uniform. Spatially varied flow is, you can see the flow coming out of this channel, and there is a flow which is coming inside also. Whatever it can be, either this condition or this condition, or both 1 and 2, either 1 or 2, or both 1 and 2 also possible. So this is an example of a spatially varied flow. So this what happens is flow over a side weir is an example of a steady weir. Maybe you can say spatially varied flow can be a steady and also unsteady. When you can say steady flow, in the sense, suppose I am having a weir here, there is another structure, side weir, and there is a suppose here I am having some agricultural fields. So this is a river, and I am allowing certain amount of water which flows over the weir. Suppose your weir is like this. Okay, if this is your flow. So if there is a steady flow over a side weir, then this can be controlled actually. You can have some controls. Suppose instead of weir, it could be a this thing also, barrage also. So suppose if the flow is maintained, steady flow can be maintained on the side weirs, in which the water could be taken to nearby agricultural fields for a uniform, because if it is steady, then you can allow only steady flow in this over the weir. So this is one best example that spatially varied flow can be a steady flow. If it is taken flow over a side weir, is a best example of a spatially varied flow over the side weir. Okay. Then so these are the different types of flow. So whatever we have seen is different types of channels and different types of flows in the open channel. So if I want to conclude, I could say different types of channels we have seen: prismatic, non-prismatic, rigid and mobile boundary channels. And in different types of flow we have seen steady, unsteady, uniform, non-uniform. Under non-uniform flow you have varied flow. Under varied flow you have gradually varied flow, rapidly varied flow and spatially varied flow. And what is the difference between all these types of flows? And the channels, you can say lined channel comes under prismatic, and non-prismatic, all the natural channels are coming under non-prismatic channels. Okay, then now all these different types of channels we are going to discuss with respect to your flow conditions. Okay, so this is the today's class. We had these topics which has been covered. Maybe we will start with channel velocity distribution and shear stress distribution in the next class. So I'm closing here. Any doubts? Any doubts? And the lab, I will tell you, like there is some confusion in the lab. Maybe somebody has been put up in another section. I will discuss. Then we will have virtual lab. Maybe if it is virtual lab, I will inform you next week. We will start because some faculty has been changed for the other section. So let the other faculty also will come. We can have a common experiments. So we can have. We'll wait for one more week. Next week we'll decide about the lab. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Then any doubts?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Ask me.
Yes, ma'am.
Please. Who is asking doubt? No doubt. Huh?
Ma'am, which book to follow for this course, ma'am?
Can follow Todd, TODD, Subramanya. All the books you can follow. Subramanya by Open Channel Flow. It's also a good book. TODD Todd, Open Channel Hydraulics. Any book with Open Channel Hydraulics you can follow.
Okay, thank you.
Because all the topics are covered in that. Maybe the last topics is maybe your last topic is boundary layer. For that you can follow Ramamritam, hydraulics and machinery by Ramamritam or Bansal or Modi and Shape, whatever it is. This is for boundary layer concepts. This is for boundary layer, last unit. Otherwise, this open channel hydraulics is for first 1 to 4 units. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, let me
Yes,
close
ma'am.
here and we will have one more class tomorrow afternoon because I missed last week also. I want to